You are a kingdom woman. You belong to a king, and he wants you to embrace your empowered position as a woman of God.
When God is chiseling you, it's hard and difficult work. He wants to shape you in your marriage, shape you with your children, shape you on your job, shape you in your life circumstances.
I don't care what your background is, what your circumstance is. You are a kingdom woman.
You know, most people know the story of Cinderella. Here's a beautiful girl who didn't know it for a while, the way she was being treated by her own family members even. But she got to go to a ball and meet a prince, and it transformed her life. The problem is the clock struck midnight again, and she wound up right back where she started. But when she went back with a different perspective because she had met a different person. The beautiful thing I love about Cinderella is that the prince was determined to locate her and to take her to her destiny.
Determined.
Determined.
I think that's a sermon.
It is a sermon.
Go ahead and preach.
And that's true for all
that.
kingdom women, because you're daughters of the king. Yeah. And when you meet the king, and that's the exciting thing for us, is that you've all accepted Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So you've met the prince. Therefore, you're related to the king. And no matter what you're going through, he knows where you are, and he knows what foot this slipper will fit.
That will preach.
Uh-oh. And so there's hope for a future, in spite of the fact you may not feel Cinderella-ish. That's not a word, but you get the point. Right now. And we not only are excited about that for you, but how you're going to transfer that to your children or the other ladies that you come in contact with, about what it means to be a kingdom woman when you and the king get connected.
That'll preach.
I think it already preached.
It did preach. He did already preach it.
Come on.
You know, it was some time ago that they were trying to develop a dollar. It was the Susan B. Anthony dollar. They wanted to have a female as part of the American currency system. And so they came out with the Susan B. Anthony dollar. The problem was, however, that people didn't utilize the Susan B. Anthony dollar. And the reason that they didn't utilize it is that it looked too much like a quarter. And because it looked too much like a quarter, people didn't want to keep going through the process of trying to decide, is this a quarter or a dollar? Ladies, you may look and feel like a quarter, but you're worth $1. And God wants you to know, as a kingdom woman, your absolute value. There's a lady we all know about. Her name was Cinderella. Cinderella was worth $1, but her circumstances made her feel like a quarter. You see, Cinderella had a wicked stepmother and 2 wicked sisters. It's sort of like the devil and his 2 sisters, the world and the flesh. They ganged up on her and they made her feel like nothing. She was beautiful, but she didn't get to realize it because the environment she was in kept reducing her value. And so, as wonderful, as marvelous, as talented as she was, but then one day she met a prince. She met a prince who loved her. The problem is that the clock struck midnight. And just when it looked like things were turning in her favor, they went back again. And all of a sudden, horses became mice, and a carriage became a pumpkin. And sometimes, I know, ladies, it feels like that for you. One day it looks like you're dancing with the prince, and the next moment you're hanging out with the mice. And with a wicked stepmother and an environment that has reduced your value. Well, in Luke chapter 13, we meet a lady. We're told in Luke chapter 13, verse 10, and he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and there was a woman who for 18 years had a sickness caused by a spirit and was bent double and couldn't straighten up. Let's analyze this woman. We're told that this woman was bent, like the humpback of Notre Dame. She couldn't stand up straight. She was bent over, and that was her lifestyle, because she was walking bent for 18 years. How long have you been hurting? How long have you been wrestling with yesterday? How long have you been dealing with the abuse or its aftermath? And how long has it doubled you over? You know, when you walk bent over, all you can look forward to is the grave, because you're always forced to look down. But what's interesting is that this lady, who had been bent over for 18 years, is in church. This event takes place in the synagogue. So evidently, you can be toe up from the floor up. You can be bent over and broke and still be in church. Somehow, church didn't change her. Church did what it does for a lot of ladies, simply help them to manage their misery. Doesn't straighten you up, you just feel a little better for a few moments. But when the service is over, boom, you're still bent. And you're living this bent life, but next Sabbath, you come to church hoping that something happens that turns your situation around. But we're told in verse number 12, when Jesus saw her, we'll call him the prince, he called her over and said to her, "Woman, you are freed from your sickness." Wait a minute. We were told in the previous verse, church hadn't changed her. And if she'd been going to church for all these 18 years, the service had no permanent effect on her. But on this Saturday, equal to our Sunday, she met Jesus in church. So there must be a difference between going to church and meeting Jesus in church. Evidently, you can go to church and nothing happens, but you can meet Jesus in church and everything changes. But why wouldn't that be true, since she's running to a king who's getting ready to make, as you'll see in a second, her a kingdom woman? He says, "Woman, you are freed from your sickness." Now, it may be easy to miss something here. If you were to look at our girl, she's bent over. Something is wrong with her. There's a spinal adhesion of some kind that will not allow her back to stand up straight. But Jesus detects something that the church officials didn't know. Luke says in verse 11, her sickness was caused by a spirit. Jesus says in verse 16, this lady whom Satan has bound for 18 years. So watch this. What you saw wasn't what was wrong. What you saw was a symptom of something much deeper. She couldn't get straight because the underlying spiritual cause had not been addressed. If all you see is what you see, you may not see all there is to be seen. If all you see is what you see, you may not see all there is to be seen. See, what Jesus does is he goes beyond and below what appears to be the problem. Jesus went searching for Satan because Jesus knew if I could fix the spiritual, I could change the circumstantial. If I weren't in the ministry, I would be a secular, non-Christian psychiatrist, because then I could charge you $300 an hour to tell you why you need to come back next week. I'd make a killing because I could keep you on the surface of your circumstances. Everybody in church only could see what they could see, but Jesus could see what was not easily seen. That if he could address the spiritual, he could reverse the circumstantial. So guess what Jesus says? He says to the woman, "Woman, you are freed." But he only says it, watch this, after he calls her over to him. Watch this. He has a word for her, but only when she comes to him. She never got the word just coming to church. She'd been doing that for 18 years. She got the word in church when she came and hooked up with the king, with the prince. Church without Jesus is artificial religion. He is the secret sauce to you straightening up whatever circumstance you're in. It's like those artificial fruits that you put on the table. They look real, but they'll break your teeth because they're not authentic. It's like the ladies who come to church with little babies and they put pacifiers in their mouth. That's pretend nutrition. It gives you the impression that something's happening, but there's no nutritional value. It's called fake. Until the baby realizes mama is tricking me and I'm gonna let this place out if you don't give me the real thing. You have the right to demand Jesus. That's more than a personality. That's more than a building. That's more than a program. That is relationship with a person. You're looking for Jesus because church without Jesus is a waste of time. You come to church to meet the Lord. You don't come to church simply to be at service. And so your demand, your expectation as a kingdom woman is, I want to meet the king. I want to meet the one who can straighten up my bent life. I don't know what's got you humped over. I don't know what circumstance has got you drooped, has beaten you down, broken you down, and stressed you out. But I do know that when you have something wrong and it's going on for 18 years, Walgreens can't help you. Going up and going over the counter can't change you. You need somebody who can x-ray you, go deeper than the obvious symptoms you're going through, can address the cause so that they can prescribe the cure. You need to meet somebody who can address the spiritual, which will reverse the circumstantial. And that's what Jesus has come to do. You know, when you go for a job, you send a resume. That's a written description of who you are. Then they call your references. That tells you what other folks say about you. But after the resume and after the references, now it's time for an interview because they want to see you for yourself in person. When you come to church, God has a thick resume. He's got 66 books. He's got a pretty thick resume. His resume says he's qualified to straighten you up. If you do it right and connect with some other ladies, you'll find out he's got some references. There's some folk who can testify that he has straightened them up because they were bent over. So God's got a resume and he's got references. But what he wants is for you to give him an interview. He wants a face-to-face experience with every lady who's here, who's tired of being bent, who's tired of being tipped over and who want to straighten up. You know, when you go to a restaurant, they give you a menu. That is a written description of what they offer. Sometimes you can salivate just by reading the menu because the menu looks so good. Then they have somebody to come out and exegete the menu, give you an explanation of the menu. They will even offer a Q&A. Do you have any questions? So you get to read it and you get somebody to explain it. But then you don't get up and leave after you've read it and after somebody explained it, because you didn't come there to read it and you didn't come there to hear about it. You came to taste it. The Bible says, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. It's not enough to come and read it or to hear somebody talk about it. You want to experience Jesus, the Prince, who can straighten you up for yourself. And so Jesus says these words. These are kingdom women words. He says to the lady, to the haters in the crowd, because there were some haters in church. It says, and the haters were the preachers. It says that the haters said, what right do you have straightening this woman up on the Sabbath day? Don't you know we having church up in here? What you doing changing folk life in church when I'm trying to preach a sermon? See, haters don't like Jesus interrupting the service. But since it's supposed to be his church, he ought to have the right to interrupt it any old time he's good and ready, especially if he's straightening somebody up. Oh, but listen to what Jesus says. Jesus says in verse 16, and this woman, a daughter of Abraham, to whom Satan is bound for 18 years, should she not have been released from the bond on the Sabbath day? Guess what he says? This woman, who's been bent over for 18 years, is more significant than you realize, because she's a daughter of Abraham. Abraham carried the covenant of God for the building of the nation Israel. So she may be bent over, but she is somebody. She may be stressed, but she is somebody. She may be broke down, but she is somebody. It may be difficult for her for a long time, but she is somebody. She may have been abused by men. That may have her bent over, but she is somebody. She may have been rejected because of her family, but she is somebody. All you see is a bent over woman for 18 years, but what I, Jesus, see is a daughter of Abraham. I see somebody that's a kingdom woman on the rise. I see a kingdom woman ready to stretch out and make her point. Ladies, I want you to know your value. I want you to know God looks at you as a kingdom woman. I want you to know that you're not just extra. I want you to know that Jesus Christ prioritizes you. But you say, you don't know how long I've been going through. I say, you've not run into Jesus enough yet. Because when you do, he's not going to call you a bent over, broken down woman. He's going to call you a daughter of Abraham. And like Sister Evans says, now you stand up, straighten up, and walk like it. Because that's who you are. You're a kingdom woman. You're a daughter of Abraham. You're somebody special. And you know what that means? It means you don't allow church folk to let you be called bent over no more. No, I'm straightening up now. You don't let some undisciplined male cause you to be bent over anymore. You ain't using me. I'm straightening up now. I'm a daughter of Abraham. So you either treat me like a daughter of Abraham, or let's go walking, let's go trucking, let's move on. Because I am somebody. I'm a daughter of Abraham. You're looking for Jesus, not just for church. You're looking for Jesus, not just for religion. A mother had her daughter in the shopping cart, and the mother was rolling the daughter up and down the aisles of the food store. She went into the cookie aisle. The daughter saw the chocolate chip cookies. She said, Mama, please for some chocolate chip cookies. The mother said, no, daughter, I'm sorry. You've had enough sweets. No chocolate chip cookies today. They went up another aisle. The daughter said, but Mama, I'm still thinking about those chocolate chip cookies. Please give me some chocolate chip cookies. The mama said, no, daughter, you've had too many sweets. I'm not giving you any chocolate chip cookies. She went up another aisle. When she went up another aisle, the daughter said, but mama, I don't think you understand. I need some chocolate chip cookies. Mama said, what you need is a spanking because I'm not giving you any chocolate chip cookies today. The daughter got in the checkout line. My mother got in the checkout line with the daughter in the cart. As the mother waited her turn in the checkout line, the daughter stood up in the cart, looked up toward heaven, clasped her hands, and said, Jesus, I learned in church last week that if I called on your name, you would meet all of my needs. And I need some chocolate chip cookies. But my mama won't get me no chocolate chip cookies. The ladies in back of the mama said, why won't that woman get that girl some chocolate chip cookies? The mother got so embarrassed, she went back and got a whole bunch of chocolate chip cookies and brought it back and dropped it in the cart. The little girl said, thank you, Jesus, for answering my prayer. Some of you ladies came to this conference and you're in the checkout line. You're ready to quit, give up, throw in the towel, run away. But before you check out, check up, because Jesus can change your situation, and even though you've been, he can straighten a sister out, because you are a daughter of Abraham. You are a kingdom woman.
You know, this whole concept of chapter 2, being a woman of hope, hope means expectation about tomorrow in spite of where I am today. And, you know, you can go a long way with just hope, like the lady in chapter 2 of the book of Luke, where she was bent over. Life hadn't been fair to her for a long time. When she ran into Jesus, it said suddenly, immediately, things turned around. And that's why we can cheer each other on. You know, I remember when Crystal was running track and she'd start off fast and I'd watch her fade. You know, I'd watch her fade. But I'd be cheering. I'd be cheering because I was committed to her finishing, regardless of where she was in relationship to other people. The beautiful thing is Jesus knows where you are on the track of life. He can meet you right there, and he's cheering you home. There's hope when you become a kingdom woman.